This is our second live and in-person inspiration session for 2026, specially created by the Elevate team, ensuring that the Elevate community receives the most valuable and impactful tools, resources, and inspiration. The presentation referred to in this session can be downloaded from the show notes. Elevate mentee Naomi Gregory introduces our speakers. This podcast was recorded at White Rabbit Studios in Shoreditch with a live audience.
Our guest speakers tonight are the brilliant Emma Gardner, Executive Design Director at Identity and an Elevate Mentor, and our training partner, Matt Bolton-Alarcón, or Special Source Training. Over the next 45 minutes, Emma and Matt, with the help of their expert panel, will lead a session on all about how to supercharge your creativity. Emma and Matt believe creativity is a skill anyone can build by asking better questions, challenging assumptions, and looking at problems differently. Expect practical tools, fresh thinking, and plenty of creativity. Please welcome to the stage Matt and Emma.
You absolutely rock that, Naomi. Well done. Well done, well done. Hi, Matt.
Hello, how are you, Emma?
Yeah, good. Shall we do it?
The Northern Takeover.
Yes! For the North. As Naomi so excellently said, I'm Emma Gardner and I'm Executive Design Director at Identity. And I have the privilege of spending nearly 20 years in my career. I've been able to be paid for my creative thinking and my ideas, which is a joy and a complete treat. So tonight, we want to enable you all in this room to feel that that is something that you are also super capable of. We'll be talking a lot around that no one really tells you creativity is not a talent. It isn't something you're actually born with. It is a skill, much like a muscle that you can build, you can train, and you can get better at. And importantly, as Naomi said, you ask the silly questions, you are more curious than everyone else, and you think laterally around the problems that our clients and the audiences are posing for us. So how do we get better results? How do we enable ourselves to never say, oh, I'm not creative? That's not my job. Because actually, creativity is in everyone, and it is something that you are not born with, but you can build. Matt.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll agree on that. I've got an argument for that in a moment. Yeah. So round of applause for Emma. Emma's going to leave the panel in a few moments' time. And then, that's me. That's actually a photo. It's my best photo I've ever had of me at a previous Elevate session. And I got it for free. It was amazing. It's worth coming to Elevate, isn't it? So I'm the training partner for Elevate, do a series of these inspiration sessions. And when I'm not working with Elevate, I work with companies all around the world, training them on how to think creatively every single day. I also use creativity as a skill to help solve problems. So if clients need to solve a problem, we throw the skills into the mix and it helps them fix things. I also do a lot of conference emceeing as well. So there we go. So I'm going to run a supercharging workshop, hopefully giving you 2 secrets to everyday creative thinking and 2 skills you can use from tomorrow. You up for that? It's a healthy attitude because that's what's coming your way. And then Emma's going to run a wonderful panel with some great experts we've got in the room. Wonderful stuff.
Thank you, Matt.
Emma, baton pass.
I'm going to sit down.
Yeah, okay. Right, everyone. I always like to check who I've got in the room before we get going, okay? Because it's dangerous, this job, if you don't know who sat there in the room. So a little check-in. Who in the room, don't be British and modest, who in the room is a genius? Put your hand up. I love it. There's a delegation going on, and safety in numbers, 2 hands together. So there we go. So it's quite interesting. We're very lucky that we've got 3 in the room. That's amazing. According to experts on intelligence, they come along about every 1 in 100,000. So it's pretty impressive. 3 are in the room here tonight, and these are just people with incredible brains that often in quite kind of niche subjects. So I'm sure you'll recognize these guys up here. They are people who are classified geniuses. So you probably don't recognize them because they are experts in things like chess, physics and maths. Okay, but... Exactly, yeah. So there you go. Very good. A little round of applause for someone who actually knew one of those experts on the room. There we go. Right, let's keep this going. Need to now know who's in the room, another level. Who in the room, therefore, is a creative genius? Go on, don't hold it back. Hands up. Okay, I love it in the middle. Right, loud and proud, that hand goes up, no problem. Tis I. Just so you know, we're very lucky to have one in the room because they come along 1 in every 10 million. And 1 in every 10 million. Now, these guys are the people whose not just intelligence, but the way that they think about the world and the ideas they come up with transforms society, the human race, how we operate, how we think. So it actually saves lives as well. So it's pretty impressive. We've got one in the room. So and you will know these people. So I'm sure more people. Let's call them out. Who have we got? Yeah, old Albert there. Marie Curie, well done. Like you've done the intro, nailed the intro. You also you named the second creative genius. Who have we got here? Beethoven, classics like, you got Rodrigo, Styles, he's in there. Yeah, I've checked all this, don't you worry, I've checked it all. And then, who's this one? Edison, well done, Edison, okay. And all creative genius, 1 in every 10 million people. So I guess in every 10 million people, there's then 9,999,999 left as non-creative geniuses. Is there any hope for us? I think there is. And actually, I'm on a quest. The business I run, Special Sauce, Unbottling Human Potential, is all about helping people unlock their natural creativity. I believe it's within everyone. I do believe, though, that people badge themselves, creative or not, at a certain age. I was in that bracket. I was always like at school, and the teacher was going, you do that, you do the play because you're creative, you should do GCS art because you're creative. And other kids were getting badged as something different. And that teacher who's told other kids they are something different is now pushing up daisies, and they're still having an influence on individuals around the room. So I'm on a quest to make sure that everyone feels they've got that creative confidence. So there we go. I also, used to have a mustache, not a beard. I've moved on. So, and I think the danger of the word creativity is that the only reason why I mention creative geniuses is there's too much pressure on the word. You've got awards taking place just last week where you win awards for creativity. Who's got a job title in the room with creativity in there? Who's got it? Yeah, I'm a creative. A lot of pressure on that as an email signature. There's a bit of energy in the word because creativity can mean something that transforms the world, like, radioactivity and radiotherapy. That's quite a big bit of creativity. And it's the same word applied to someone just coming up with a really interesting idea that changes things by 10%, improves things incrementally. So I always flash up the fact when I speak at conferences, all of the stories that get told around innovation and creativity at the disruptive end of the scale. So those organizations, I don't need to tell you what they've done because you know that story so well. The way Airbnb disrupted the hotel industry. It's now, in terms of beds per night, it's killing the hotel industry. What Waze is doing with how we navigate the world. Really big disruptive ideas. But actually, I get more excited about everyday creativity is just looking at what we do right now and going, could it be 5% better? Is there a smarter, is there a more efficient way of doing this? Is there a problem that someone, let's say, coming to an event has got, and we're just going to fix that problem before it happens? That, for me, is everyday creativity. So I get as excited about the incremental as I do about the more disruptive stuff, if not more. And actually, I took, just last week, I was working with a group of MDs from a big entertainment business that some of you will know and love. And they do things like, they have massive venues around the world, and they also run big festivals. And they were getting inspiration from a bit of a tour around London of some different experiences, actually much smaller venues. And last week, on a very hot evening when England were playing, it was a couple of weeks ago actually, it was the one where we just won in the last minute. We went to, anyone know what this image is from? So it's the jazz club in Peckham, Belle Livingston's jazz club. And it's an immersive experience where you go into the late 1920s, early 30s, New York, and you are fully immersed from the front door in an experience like you'll never forget. You're transported to New York. And so I asked them a great question the next day, just going, what ideas resonated with you last night? What really stuck with you from last night's event? And they said it was just a lot of tiny details delivered brilliantly. Okay? Immersive theatre has been done for many years. Immersive experience has been done for many ways. The reason why it was such a great experience was they focused on all the tiny details. And that's what I think, for me, being a great creative thinker is all about. It's not about having to be a creative genius. So, I have got, in this session, two what I think are best kept secrets around creative thinking, some of which elevators have been with me before. You'll know these principles, but it's a great reminder. And then two techniques that you can use as of tomorrow. I'll give you a little bit of experience around them tonight as well. So you'll leave, hopefully, even more confident. Right, so the first one is this. So I want you to imagine, it's a real thing coming up. On Friday, I am meeting a brand new client, right? I've got 1 hour with them, and I'm going in. It's not a pitch, it's just a chemistry meeting. And I normally go in, introduce the work I do, flash some logos up, maybe tell a story, an anecdote. Give me some other ways I could start that meeting to grab their attention. Don't be shy, call them out. Buy them a beer, I love that. So actually, rather than it being in their territory, and it's got this client supplier, why don't we go to a different location? I'm going to buy you a bit. Or you're talking about literally walking with 2 pints. Actually, major standout. Yeah. Any other ideas?
What's the biggest thing you're struggling with? What's the problem I can help solve?
Is this a question to me, or is this to the client when I walk in? Right, okay, so the suggestion was, what's the biggest... So walk in and go, what is your biggest issue right now? Okay, and maybe tackle that live with them and bring the tools to life rather than talk about what I do. Do what I do. Love that. Any other options? I could walk in... Max has only ever had one big night out with me, but he knows I've got those moves. So I will express their business and all the challenges that they've got through the art of Shazam dance. Yeah, we could do a bit of that. Yes, you did just see a middle-aged man in clogs dance on stage there, right there. That will not happen again. Health warning. Yeah. So, and what we just did there is exactly what I think everyone should do more often every single day, which is there's two very different modes of thinking required for everyday creativity. One is reductive thinking, where you're making decisions, getting things done, using your experience to go, we've got to do this. But it is only a good decision when you've benefited from what we just did there, which is a bit of expansive thinking, which is going, have we got a few more options to play around with? A few years ago, I ran a program with Google. It was in the early days of the program, and we had, on one of the early iterations, we had a guy called Matt Britton, who was on the program. He then went off to run the EMEA business for Google. He is now exactly 2 people in the room know he's now the Director General of the BBC. Big job to do there. Matt Britton said, everyday creative thinking is just about asking 2 questions regularly. One question which is, in any situation, what could we do? And then the other one, having got a few options to play around with, what should we do in this situation? That is all it's about. But unfortunately, when we get busy and we're jumping from one thing to the next and we've got a task list as long as this screen, we actually just default to what we've seen and done before. So the big secret number 1 is you need to weave in a bit more expansive thinking, a few more options in your day-to-day. And here's a little bit of a reference that kind of backs that up, which is 2 brothers that write fabulous books together. So there's a great book called Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath, Why Certain Ideas Stick in the World and Others Don't. This is another of their bestsellers, Decisive. So they wrote the number 1 selling book in the world on decision making. And just a little reference point, you will make, as an adult human being, 35,000 decisions every single day. Now, some of them are just go off and do. You don't need any options. So for me today, yellow shirt, middle of the week, elevate, yellow shirt. There's no decision making. I'm wearing that frickin' yellow shirt tonight. Good choice. Yeah, I didn't need more options. I don't need more. I don't need a generic blue shirt and and a kick of the cream beige shorts. I don't need that generic Southwest London, could be living anywhere from Clapham to... I don't need that. I'm going to be my own person, and now I'm going to wear that yellow and green shorts. So, but there's other decisions our working day where actually, if we just had a few more options, we would have made a better decision. So Chip and Dan Heath say, the biggest failure for quality decision making is called narrow framing, which is just not having enough options to choose from. So, it's a really simple equation, more options, better decisions. First secret, don't tell anyone beyond this room. Okay? All good so far? Give me a hell yeah. Yeah, that's what we do. Sorry, Max, that wasn't at you, actually. I didn't notice you were wearing that. Yeah, okay. So, the next one. Now, those who've done this exercise with me before, you're not allowed. No, everyone's allowed. I'm going to ask you 3 questions about me, and no one knows the answer in this room whatsoever, apart from one person. Okay? I'm thick-skinned, throw the answers out, have fun with it. So, I had a significant birthday a few months ago. It felt horrific, but I had a great party. Right? I want you to do multiple choice guessing. For my big birthday, did I go partying in Ibiza? This is this side. Or did I have a marquee in the back garden? Ibiza, put your hands up. Marquee in the back garden. God, I'm such a freaking stereotype. Right, okay. But I didn't give you the answer. Right, okay. Next one is I have got something in common with PJ, one of the panelists. Okay. Is it A, we went to the same school together, this side, or we both have a Mexican wife, this side? So same school, put your hand up. A few. Mexican wife? There we go. Okay. And then final question. What am I doing this summer? What am I doing this summer? Am I going Eurocamp with the kids? Okay. This side, am I doing a cultural excursion through Bilbao, San Sebastian, Barcelona, Toulouse, up to Versailles, Paris, and back again? So, Eurocamp with the kids? A cultural tour around Europe through some pretty cool places? Losers. No. So, give you the answers. So, first question was what? Forgotten. Ibiza or Marquee? Marquee with an Ibiza DJ. Yeah. Okay. What about same school or Mexican wife? Mexican wife. And then is it the cultural excursion around Europe, or is it Eurocamp with the kid? It's the cultural excursion around Europe, everyone. Of course it is. Yeah. With 4 Mexicans visiting as well. It's going to be hell on earth. Right, okay. So, sorry, I've gone way over time already. I'll speed things up. I have more fun with the interactivity, the actual tools is what you'll find in an inspiration session. So, now, half of you haven't met me, because I know half of you haven't been to an inspiration session. So, for that half of the room, where did those answers come from? I know they came from your mouth, but where did they come from before they were externalized? You guess? Where do guesses come from? Do you go to the guess shop? Labels. Where does prejudice come from? Perception. Where do they come from? Information that you gather and you process. So, secret number 2 is your brain's like a mountain and you gather information and experiences. And the more information you get around similar topics, you start to form rivers of thinking. Okay? And we have rivers of thinking about all things in our life, from our job, the type of events we work on, and conferences, etc., etc. And the only danger of them is that when we seek an answer to a problem, our brain defaults to our rivers of thinking, aka things that we've seen and done before. Yeah? It's very hard to get out of them the more experience you get. So we've got mentors and mentees. Who's been working in the world of events for more than a year? Yeah? Keep them up if it's more than 5, more than 10, more than 15, more than 20. That's when people glare at me. We've got centuries of experience around how things are done at events around here. Brilliant expertise. I'm not here to knock it. The only problem is when you're faced with a problem that you've not seen or done before, or you want to come up with something new and different no one's seen before, your brain is hardwired to these. So the second big principle is you need to use provocation and stimulus to get out of your rivers of thinking. So I'm going to hit you with 2 techniques just to play around within the room. First one is all about breaking the rules, okay? If you see an amazing piece of comms out there, or you see a business that you're like, wow, I wish I'd thought of that, this has been their thinking process to get there. Even if they haven't followed a thinking process, it's just happened. If you look at it kind of in hindsight, this is what's happened. So here's how it works. You can do this on small things about how you run your day-to-day, right through to bigger things like helping a client think differently about an event. Here's how it works, is don't fall over your clog, is list the rules or conventions surrounding your challenge. List them out. Another way of saying this is, how do we normally do this? What's business as usual? Then you say, what if? Yeah, it's a technique I used to use. I used to work for an agency called What If. We used to go into clients and just say, what if? What if you did something totally opposite? What if you exaggerated that rule or convention? And then you say, how can I use that fresh thinking as stimulus to come up with some new ideas? So do it live with me now. Let's take a classic corporate conference. I say it because I've just run 2 in the last 2 weeks. And the more obvious the better, what are the norms or conventions of big corporate conferences? You wear lanyard. I love that. Straight in. There's always a lanyard. Yeah, fantastic. I love that. What else? PowerPoint. It's even if it's beautiful, you've got amazing designers, there's the PowerPoint is almost like almost one of the heroes of the show. What else? Huh? There's a stage. Stage, yeah, exactly. A senior leader speaking for most of the time. A very packed agenda, yeah, or at least there should be an agenda as well. So let's take that one. Let's take that one. If we use this technique, we'll say, what if, right? What if you went for a certain part of the conference, there's no agenda whatsoever? And I know a big new thing in the world of conference is the non-agenda, the unagenda, where actually you have a period of time where you just go, let the audience bubble up the big issues. Yeah? Another thing might be, it's always PowerPoint. How can we break that rule? What can you do with that? Pictionary. So actually, it's just, and actually I've worked a lot with a few old colleagues of mine, and leaders speak, and they are live on stage building the content, a bit like the RSA animates TED Talks. Amazing. So it's a living and breathing piece of work rather than it's like a predetermined slide. Graphic designers are looking at me now, scowling at me. I can feel it, yeah. But you see how it works already. Just 2 rules that we've called out. We've broken them and come up with new ideas for conferences. So that would be a great starting point for me. If I was looking at a challenge you're working on right now, almost go, what do we normally do? Let's flip them on their head and try and come up with something new. Now, the end result, you'll notice, doesn't have to be that wild and breaking of the rules, but your thinking process to get there has to be. So you've got to go with it and see what happens. Okay. So, final tool before I hand to Emma for the panel is Edison's back again on screen, and he said, ideas have to be original only with regard to their adaptation to the problem at hand. Right? Okay, just close your eyes. Close your eyes, and then just read that out again. I've just told you read it out again. Exactly. Edison had some great quotes over the years. That was a shocker. So I dropped it into Google's Gemini. PJ, I am very loyal to the company that's paid me for the last 10 years as a big client. I dropped that into Gemini and said, can you make that quote a bit more human, a bit more everyday, a bit more that people would remember? Go steal. Go steal. And just as an aside with creative thinking techniques, actually, I'm a big believer in using AI as part of the creative process, but here's my provocation to you is, please don't outsource your creativity to AI. Involve it, and you'll be way more powerful as a creative thinker. There's been studies that have shown that if you have a cognitively diverse group of people with AI, almost like the 5th thinking buddy in the room, the quality of the ideas is way better than just one person with AI. Okay, so involve as part of your creative thinking. Okay, final tool is this, which is what Edison was trying to say was whatever issue you've got right now on an event, something else internal within your companies, you can bet your bottom dollar someone else in a different context has solved the same issue. So go steal the principles. So little play around. What do the Pompidou Center in Paris and the Guggenheim in New York have in common? They're both museums. That is profound. I'd not thought of that, actually. I've not that. In major cities. Freaking, this is deep. This is deep. They've got sister, satellite, whatever, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm going to say they followed, they were inspiration for the technique of the worlds, everyone. So the Pompidou Centre, where it shows its inner workings on the outside, was the inspiration for the Nike Air Max shoe, where you see the inner workings through the sole. And I've told this story before. The Guggenheim was the inspiration for the circular navigation at IKEA, and the fact that rather than walking through the gift shop at the end, you walk past meatballs and dime bars. That is stolen from the principle of the gift shop at the Guggenheim. So there we go. So final technique for you is, whatever challenge you're working on, really boil it down. What's the essence of the challenge I'm working on here? Then ask who else or where else in the world has solved this issue. And it could be a very different place. So it could be first impressions at an event. Who else is great at first impressions? Well, people going on a first date have to be good at first impressions. What do they do? Or is there something you could steal from that world? Yeah, so really boil it down, look at other worlds, and see what ideas come your way. Okay, so 2 secrets. Make sure you allow time for expansive thinking. Don't get stuck in rivers of thinking. And 2 techniques. Do a bit of rule breaking and visit some other worlds. So, before I hand over to Emma, we had 1 creative genius in the room, but how many great creative thinkers do we have in the room? Put your hands up. Who hasn't got their hand up? Put your hand up. Statistics show that 100 in every 100 elevators are great creative thinkers. I think you'll all agree. But Edison's back again for the final time. But you've got to work it. You've got to make it part of your day-to-day. As we get busy on multiple screens and we're being efficient and effective with AI, we need to give ourselves space for this stuff. So work that muscle of creativity. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. That's me. Over to Emma.
Thank you, Matt. Legend. Amazing. So we are going to find out from our panellists how they flex their creative muscles. What are the challenges that they set themselves, and what is their experience in being able to achieve everything they've achieved in their careers so far? So, welcome PJ Bailey, who's our Senior Events Manager for EMEA at Google. We've got Trini Maria Katakwe, the Spatial Designer and Cultural Strategist, easy for me to say, and Kay O'Connor, Strategic Creative Director at Identity. Come up, please. Woo. It is such a treat to have these 3 creative powerhouses with us tonight. So thank you so much for your thoughts, your energy, your time, because I know it's not easy to do these things in amongst, as Matt said previously, the day job. So a couple of questions to start with. We really want to understand what makes you creative and your experiences previously. So Kate, I'm going to come to you first. What is the worst creative idea that you've ever pitched? And what did it teach you? And I work with Kate, so this is going to be good.
Yeah, in case it doesn't become clear, Emma is my boss, so she's been, everything I'm about to say, no, this is going to be fine. The worst thing I think I've ever pitched, although you'd probably have to ask my clients, I suppose. I once pitched to the head of marketing at Paddy Power, this was quite some years ago, some scented candles. Football scented candles. Ooh. You know, like the smell of the grass, the smell of the changing room, like evocative. Ew. And she laughed in my face and said, our customers would never buy that. And I was like, I wasn't expecting them to buy them. It was like a mischievous stunt. I had not explained that to her. So the thing that I learned was, when you are pitching your ideas, make them clear and simple.
At least you got excellent, straightforward feedback.
Yeah.
I mean, straight in the room to your face.
To my face, yeah.
So nice.
Yeah.
PJ, same question to you. What was the worst creative idea you've ever pitched? What did it teach you?
There's been so many, unfortunately, but I think probably the one that stands out the most is I was working in an agency and we were pitching for a big FMCG toothpaste brand who had a new product coming out. It was a big launch of a new product they called Project Kylie because they were convinced it was going to be the next big thing. And it was a textured sleeve you'd wear on your finger. And the idea was you could have it in your, your bag or your pocket, and you could have a quick brush, effectively. Sounds pretty cool, right? We would probably use them. No. Well, we came up with a brilliant strap line of, let's give bad breath the finger. And it sort of landed reasonably well.
Reasonably?
Reasonably well. We didn't win, but no did anyone. No one won it because it didn't launch. So yeah, it was. I guess what it taught us was to be sort of quite bold with the ideas. I think at the time we were working on the idea of playing with two ideas for briefs and pitches, which were like one which was like sort of came from the head, which was answer the brief perfectly. Then one which was a kind of like, what if we did something that was really fun and stupid and sort of, went with the heart.
Yeah, a bit like what Matt was saying. What should we? What could we?
Yeah.
So going in with those kind of two responses. But that's so interesting because those ideas that don't go down well is what we have to not be totally terrified of. We need to kind of welcome those failures, maybe not quite as much as these ones, in order for us to learn something more to develop us as creatives. We've been doing a project recently and we're working quite a lot with behavioural science and psychology, and the feeling of losing something is 100 times worse than the feeling of winning that same equivalent thing. So what we are hardwired to do in our chimp state is to not lose, essentially. So if I lost £100, the feeling of that would be 100 times worse than me winning £100. So it's trying to recondition our brain, welcome the failures, or maybe not welcome them, well yes, welcome them, but not dwell on them, essentially, and learn from them and move on. Trini, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question. Is that okay?
Yeah, go.
Who told you that you were creative or that you weren't? Matt spoke about old teachers. I've been there. And, who were right?
I wanted it to be something different, but it's the same thing about teachers for me as well.
Oh, yeah, cool.
That was the age of 7. Miss Williams, shout out to Miss Williams.
See,
literally,
she's still with you.
Still with me. Like, she's literally, deep in my heart.
Yeah.
But I find having a teacher like Miss Williams who literally, she supercharged my creativity. Like, anything I was doing, whether it was art or reading or whatever, she literally was always pouring in that time and that effort to make sure I knew that. So, little projects that she would give me would become the nativity poster, and that got printed out and shared for everyone. So I think that was my early days of, my sketches can actually become something that is tangible. So I never felt like I couldn't do what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And shout out to Miss Williams because of that. So.
Yeah, Mrs. Williams.
Miss Williams.
So she is your cheerleader. She is your Elevate mentor, right? Someone that has got your back, that pushes you forward, that sees that spark in you and moves it forward. And that is what all of you mentors are doing for your mentees, which is why it's such a special thing, right? Okay, so moving on to us all now being creative, and that being creative doesn't mean that you sit on a beanbag in an office or go down the slide or have it as your job description on your signature. Where do we think it actually lives then, creativity, if it's not just in the creative department? And like Matt said, some of the most mundane problems, challenges, behavioural psychology challenges have been solved in the most creative ways. PJ, to you, through your work at Google and YouTube, you're at this amazing sweet spot of intersection of live experiences, creators, technology. You've got so much to juggle when it comes to what actually is creative thinking. How do you think about, your creative talent in the team and the people that you work with, and how that looks today?
It's a good question. Can I put it in Gemini to give you an answer?
No.
I guess it really depends on how we're defining creative talent, right? I think we're really lucky to work in an industry that, and I think as Matt and others have been saying, we all bring different elements of creativity to the table. Whether it's from a production perspective and solving a problem there, or to being creative with numbers, which we constantly are on budgets. I think the key for me is sort of the diversity of talent and sort of the broad skill sets. I think we're probably moving slightly away from people who sort of hone their craft in one particular thing and open themselves up to have access to more tools and different types of tools. And I think, when you think about creative talent, there's two different types of creators, I think. Again, there's, your pure play sort of creatives who have creative in their title. And then you have people who are just very creative, but in different ways. And I think it's tapping into everyone rather than just thinking, I need to go and speak to somebody who's got creative in that title, because some minds can unlock a problem that you are looking at for ages and they'll see it in a completely different way. And I think also attitude plays a massive part of it, and passion. I think, again, the amount of people that we look at coming into the business, and particularly in the industry that we work in, it's going and experience and living and doing things, and go and absorb as much as you can and bring that to the table. Come with that what-if attitude when you get that brief. So I think less skill set and more sort of, I think, attitude is really important for talent.
Two things you touched on then, which we kind of live and breathe and love, is the squiggly career. So it's, especially now for the young creatives in the industry, it might be quite unusual for us to go up the career ladder from a GCSE, A-level degree, junior designer, midweight designer, creative director. It's going to be completely different for the opportunities, but also that makes it incredibly exciting, and that maybe now it's more okay for you to kind of divert your career into a number of different areas or disciplines perhaps, because that's what gives us our cognitive difference. So the changes in experience, the changes in types of people that we are, and our lived experience and lived judgments, that's why more people, more collisions of cognitive difference is only going to provide better solutions, because we are talking to people like all of us. We're not talking to one type of people sat around that particular table. So thank you, PJ. That was wonderful. But Kate does have creative in her job title. Yes, you do. Strategic Creative Director at Identity. Very new. Very thrilled to have you. What is a habit or a discipline that you've built that you feel makes you more creative? And it's not about being more experienced.
Yeah. So, I am Strategic Creative Director at Identity. Essentially, that means I'm a concept guy, I'm an ideas guy, I'm not the execution guy. We have an astonishing team of designers who do that stuff better than I ever could. I am a copywriter by training, which also explains why that photograph is so low res, because I sent it to Emma. That's not her fault, it's my fault. So, habits. I try very hard to nurture a creative practice outside of work. That is a very wanky way of saying I do things I like for fun, because creativity at work is amazing. It is such a privilege to be a creative and get paid to do that, but it can be a compromise a lot of the time. We don't always get final say, clients get final say, budgets get final say, and that's cool, that's the job. But to retain a sense of creative fulfillment, I spend loads and loads of time outside of work writing jokes. That's what I like to do. I am sometimes stand-up, I'm an improviser, I just write jokes for fun. Plug, you can follow me on TikTok. Look.
Oh, it goes.
Look, it's Kate O'Connor. That's the TikTok, not just I am here. The other thing that I do is I have a brick for my phone. It's a little plastic thing about yay big. It's a magnet, sits on my fridge. When I tap my phone to it, I can block all social media, all news outlets. It's basically a Nokia 3310. I do that about 12 hours a day. Stopping the scroll has made me more creative.
I love that. And that external passion for something that makes you think differently. And in our job, like we're sat here today, we need to talk confidently and passionately about our ideas and communicate often deep, big thoughts to a client that isn't in the detail like we are. So Kate harnessing that with her joke writing book that's down there and her improv sessions is like, that's literally...
I will talk about it in a minute, it's just a prop.
And having someone like Kate is now trickling through the department. We've got people at work now going, how did you get into improv? How might I jump on that course? And it's just wonderful practice to do something completely different to the day job, but it inspires you in the day job. Thank you, Kate. Trini, so you've got amazing kind of cultural, spatial design work at the moment and in place and in your community, right?
Yes.
Has that made you think, differently about what is creative and what it's supposed to look like?
It's massively shaped my output and just how I think and how I process. Because if you think about it, our industry is like the few industries that psychologically shapes how we make people feel.
Yeah.
And because my background's in architecture, so it's been like a decade-long process of shaping and morphing, and squiggly career thing that happened to me. But at the benefit with being able to allow culture and community to infiltrate in my practice, it's meant all it does is it enriches the output of what's going to be created. And I find the more you focus on the visceral experience of what is going to be designed, you actually have a stronger creative design, if anything. So it hasn't really, it's made me refine versus try to add more ideas just for ideas' sake, because that can easily happen. Where, especially as a creative, you just want to throw every idea. But what you get humbled with is the budget, or the venue, or you're in a grade-listed building and you can't paint on every wall. So you have to think outside of the box. And we're in a time where people want meaningful moments and meaningful experiences. So if you were to think more psychological on what that design process or the output is going to be, you genuinely just have a stronger concept at the end of it. So I find even now, especially with working in the public realm, for example, so even though I work with brands and all that, but I get to work with local communities and just see how everyday people communicate and like react to creativity. So it's not a case of every moment of the day I'm not overly thinking about it, it's just a human instinct. And I think the more you embrace that, you can speak to anyone, as you've mentioned, when it comes to who is a part of the conversations for creativity. Anyone can be a part of the conversation. My expression is through creativity, as I said, from young, from Miss Williams. But it means, creativity is just problem solving. It's making people feel something. That's really what it's about. And I think we all feel something, depending on what it is. So, yeah, that's really what it's done. It's just enhanced the experience. It hasn't really taken anything away.
That's an amazing process to go through, sentiment, and the opportunity to refine what it is you believe in alongside the ideas and the output, alongside your values, right? In order to make a true difference to your client or the community, essentially the people that are using your spaces and designs. So that's wonderful. So we're going to move on to bringing in some tools. We have spoken about the AI-shaped elephant in the room. But first of all, we did speak around like creativity being a muscle, and that we need to train and adapt and feed that muscle in like super unexpected ways, which we've had some amazing insight from our panel on how they do that actually. But AI can help us table those ideas. It can help us supercharge the process, the boring, mundane stuff, that the blank sheet of paper moment that every creative has kind of come up against, or the 100th line at 11 o'clock after an all-nighter. It's not that much fun. It enables us get through the rubbish quicker, but it has to be in collaboration with diverse thoughts, with human guardianship and direction. So, Matt and I have been talking around you plus AI. Actually, it's you times AI, and that enables unstoppable creativity. So, something that we need to be super clear on, as a panel as well, is that it's not a replacement. AI is not a replacement for human creativity, for your lived experience, for your judgment, your taste, and your take on what it is that you're trying to achieve with that brief. It is an enabler, and it multiplies the opportunity and the speed in which we can get some shit done, basically. On that note, talking of AI, PJ had a really interesting post on his LinkedIn this week. He was shooting off into space in the telephone box with the help of Gemini Omni. Obviously, AI opens up loads of different opportunities, and it actually democratizes creativity so that more people feel confident to unleash their creative thoughts with the help of AI. But where do you think the line is between using it to be braver and really playful versus too heavily, PJ?
I think if you solely rely on AI for creativity, creativity dies, you fail.
Yeah.
as I think you put it, it's incredibly important to have that human in the loop. I think we've all probably experienced it when we've written something and then AI or autocorrect changes it, and you're like, what on earth? That's not me. It doesn't sound like me. It's not that how I speak, how I write, how I type.
Yeah.
And so long as there's that guardianship of you being the creative and controlling the tool or managing the tool, I think that's where the line is. If you rely on it too heavily to do everything for you, then you start seeing real slop.
Yeah.
I think as you described, it's an amazing tool to kind of get you 70% of the way there. So you can spend 30% really honing your craft to get the best output you want. And so long as we stick to, I think, those guidelines, I think, creativity will flourish and live on. And we're starting to see some really fun things where, I love the fact that I'm not a creative, it's not in my title. And there are many...
Excuse me?
There are many...
You are?
There are many... I am. This is where I'll come to in a minute.
He's right there.
Yeah, I know. But, I will love the fact that I can doodle something on a piece of paper, take a photograph of it, and it will suddenly render out something, and I can give it to somebody who has creative in their title and say, here's an idea I had.
Yeah.
And you're saving so much time, you're getting to your ideas faster, you can have more ideas,
Yes.
you can have more what-ifs, you can be really playful and fun with it. But if you just rely on it, creativity doesn't exist.
And that's a really great point in terms of briefing, actually, because when words may fail us in terms of where is the wow, which is the worst thing any creative can hear, this can actually table our thoughts to each other much quicker than any written brief, potentially. So, that's wonderful. Kate.
Hello.
We speak a lot about this at work.
We do.
The main part of your job is connecting people with people, right?
Yeah.
As AI does become more involved with creative thinking, what do you think it can help with that's slightly different maybe from what PJ's just said, and what has to stick solely with the human brain?
AI can absolutely do any number of really, really amazing things. Hot take, I don't think AI can or ever will be able to do creative thinking. I think it can do a facsimile of thinking. It is a large language model. It has been modeled on the way that human brains think. But Matt has just very eruditely explained to us that most of us have rivers of thought. AI has rivers of thought. It won't do the expansive thinking for you ever without prompting. It will not do the lateral leaps. It will not find two completely seemingly disconnected things, smash them together and make something that is bigger than the sum of its parts. It has to be prompted to do that. If you write a good enough prompt that has done all of that thinking,
Yes.
it will produce something good. That means you have already done the creative thinking before you put it into AI. You don't need AI to do that bit for you. That bit comes from your human brain. So that's how I feel about that's breaking down your question horribly and playing it back to you, sorry.
Great.
The creative bit needs to be done by a human, and then AI will help you write it down. AI will help you table it. I do use AI in my workflow, and I will tell you how, if it's useful or interesting. 3 personal uses. 1, it is the baseline test. Put the brief, assuming it is safe to do so in your organization. We have guidelines that we follow very strictly. Put the brief into AI and see what it churns out. That is your baseline. If you cannot produce something better than that, it does not go to a client. That is bare minimum is the answer. Use that as the thing that you need to beat. It's quite fun, actually. I quite enjoy it, just to beat the robot. 2, the obvious stuff. It can be pretty good at research. Like sometimes it can be a bit surface level, but again, if you prompt it well enough, it can do some pretty good research for you. So it becomes like, I've got this book. I was going to get it, and now I'm too high up, and if I move, I'll fall. Thank you. This book, if you are a writer, I would thoroughly suggest that you buy it and read it. I find it enormously helpful. It's been around a while. The Serious Guide to Joke Writing by Sally Holloway. That you'll have read this. There's a thing in this called the two spider diagram joke method. Oh no, she's dropped her notes. We'll do it from memory. Let's vamp. 2 spider diagrams. You basically, thank you so much. Think about 2 unrelated things. spiral off it as many things as you can think of. You will eventually find two words the same in those unrelated things, and you can make a connection. And it's a really good way of writing jokes. It's also a really good way of coming up with ideas. AI can help you do one of those spider diagrams. It's up to you to do the other one. It will never do both and make the connection. So, like, use it for half the answer, and then your human creativity, your brain, will help you formulate the rest of it. And then the last one is beating the blank page.
Yes.
I dictate to my Claude quite a lot of the time. Like, I'll do like a stream of consciousness.
Yes.
I'll have read the brief, I'll have got in the shower and had a really good think, because it's where I do my best thinking, and then I will just talk out loud at AI for 10 minutes, and then it will help me sort of distill down those thoughts, and it is somewhere to start. It's never the answer, but it's often breaks the back of a PowerPoint slide.
Yeah, that's it. The fear of the blank page. Often lots of creatives in every discipline have challenges with that.
Totally.
Love it. Trini, what's one thing you'd never let AI touch in your process, and one thing that you're happy to hand over completely?
My autonomy, like just how I feel and how I think, because I find anytime a brief arrives to me, the first thing that happens is always a pencil, a pen, and a piece of paper.
Yes.
No fancy sketchbook, just A4 piece of paper.
Bag packet.
Basically that. Just regular. The reason why I do that, because I think there's something really special about you just thinking and actually just allowing it to spill out on the page. Brain dump, do everything, sketch out random ideas. And what that ends up doing is, again, it goes back to my autonomy. It reignites what it felt like as a child. And I know sometimes it's like, that's way back when, but really and truly, that's really what the essence of being a creative is, just going back to the core of who you are. So that's the part I highly protect. But I think when it comes to AI, I don't really have a concluding, viewpoint of what I think about it, because I don't feel like I've been using it long enough to really know what the effects are going to be in the long term. Do I see the benefits in some areas? That could mean, just your workflow, just how you get things done during the day. But in terms of that essence of being a creative, it goes back to especially the work I do a lot when it comes to working with communities and culture. People actually want to feel. Like, if I had to feedback anything and all the things and all the discussions I get to have, people just want to feel. So if they do have an essence or feeling that something was artificially, done, they're going to point it out. Yeah. And now everything is going to feel a little bit just inauthentic. So if you do want that authenticity, don't feel afraid or feel intimidated by the fact that there is artificial intelligence to enhance your idea. But it may not always solve things quickly the way that your mind can actually do it. So I'm kind of setting that boundary personally of just a bit of it's not going to touch everything, but I can see the benefits of what it will be in the long term.
Yeah, I love that. Remaining authentic to yourself and your feelings, and there's no better way of doing that is starting with pen on paper. It's so freeing, even if you're not sketching or illustrating, writing your notes down is something that we rarely do anymore. It's phone and laptop based. Is a wonderful way to encourage that kind of free flow of thoughts. Lovely, Trini, thank you. So, as we've heard, I've got a couple more questions left. I might just ask you all one of them. Tonight isn't about whether or not you're a creative person, but it is about learning how to use that muscle and thinking about the tools that are available to all of us now in order for us to be more creative or more efficient and ultimately get to the better big idea quicker. So, I'm going to ask you the one around piece of advice. Let's start with PJ. What's the one piece of advice you got early on that you'd now actively tell someone starting out to ignore?
Don't be agile.
Interesting. Don't be agile.
Yeah.
Okay.
So be more agile, I guess is what I'm saying.
Hang on.
Don't not be agile. It's a double negative somewhere. Be more agile is what you should be. What do I mean by that? I mean, give everything a go. Don't feel like you should be pigeonholed by being in a role where you have to follow a traditional career ladder.
Yeah.
Be unapologetically curious. Go and try everything. Keep on learning. It's incredibly important, I think. Keep on honing different skills, all skills.
Yeah.
Be agile.
Do be agile.
Don't not be agile.
Don't be agile. Lovely, PJ. Squiggly career. Trini, what was the one piece of advice you got early on that you'd now actively tell someone starting out to ignore?
Ignore. That don't be, like, being a jack of all trades is a bad thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's actually a good thing. Like, literally being someone who has journeyed through many different creative hats out of curiosity, out of, practically as well. Like, you got to work, you got to find your way. But I would say it's probably been one of the most fruitful things that's actually happened to me. Because if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would be where I'm at today, to be able to pivot and change and shift depending on what things are happening. So, if you feel curious about something, just give it a go. Like, just never know. It might be the best thing that could ever happen to you if you try that thing. You might pivot again. It's okay to pivot. Sometimes you have to because of the circumstance. So just allow yourself to kind of be. And then it will come to a point where you kind of have to look back, which I'm at right now, where you're kind of seeing things from there.
Interesting.
It's like looking around, but yeah.
And then you have the opportunity of choice, right?
100%.
And you can make that decision for yourself. You've tried all these things. This is where I belong. Kate.
Hello.
Advice to ignore.
I was once told as a junior, in a surprise to nobody, no one likes a know-it-all. However, with the benefit of time,
we ignore that?
What I have realised is what this man meant was weak leaders resent people that pull focus. And I realise now, 10 plus years later, that strong leaders are people that find the best person for the job and back them to the hilt to do it. So if you know something and you believe in your heart that it is right, back yourself.
I love that. I love that if you think that you are the most intelligent, clever, creative person in the room, you are in the wrong room. You need to surround yourself with employees that are more creative, more intelligent in their area than you are, so that you can learn. And I totally agree with you in terms of like that leadership and enabling that amongst everyone. Lovely. I've got one eye on the time. So I think, Q&A. Right, okay. Has anyone got any questions for our amazing panellists? We're going 4 questions, that's it.
Just talking about like enabling and stuff. So probably much to Matt's dismay, I'd say I'm probably not a creative in the room, sorry. But you talk about like enabling people in that room. What can we do as people to kind of support that creative energy and kind of make people feel welcome in the room? And we've got any examples of when probably that wasn't the case for you guys and how we can essentially help you.
Okay, I'm going to field this to you.
I started doing improv many, many years ago, and the basic principle of doing improv well is yes and. So I use that all the time at work. Like, I use it in improv too, obviously, but I use it all the time at work. So if somebody comes to me with an idea, I will always affirm the idea and say, yes, I love that. I love this specific bit of it. And how about we think about this as well? So their idea is still the crux of the thing, even if it goes on to evolve into something very, very different. It is their idea, and they can take ownership of it, and they can grow it and nurture it. And like, it allows people to feel like they're being taken seriously and that their thoughts and their knowledge have real value. So I would say yes and is the best advice I can give to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kate. Any more questions?
This is another question for Kate. You mentioned that stopping scrolling enhanced your creativity. Yeah. How did you, like in what way?
I notice more. I listen to people on the bus. I notice what people wear more. I try to not wear my headphones as much as well. It's basically just a way of like reconnecting with real people in real life, because you know as well as everybody else that what you see on Instagram is not real life. It is a projection. So it was just a way I realized I was not connected with like real people in the real world so much anymore. So decided, no, I'm gonna. Also, I read more books.
Yes. Yeah, love that. Thank you. Thanks, Kate. Any more questions?
Throughout the talk, we've been I've been hearing, we've been talking a lot about ideas and having more ideas, more people being creative, having AI multiply the amount of ideas you can have. It has me thinking about discernment and curation, and how do you sift through all of these ideas and make sure that you are arriving at something that is good and not just continuing in the loop of endless ideas without, because it can become a rabbit hole and you just...
And that's really difficult to manage, and because that's why you need to consistently challenge everything that AI creates, because you have to use your judgment alongside the client brief, what we know about the audience, in order to double check what's worth moving forward. Kate's rule of, could I do it better, is a really good example of, am I impressed by this or not, as a standard rule. Trini, were you going to...
Yeah, I was kind of like buzzing. I kind of want to answer your question.
Yeah, go.
I was like, no, I've got something that could be useful. Or what I find as someone with that multifaceted background was spatial storytelling is something that I anchor a lot when it comes to dealing with a brief, because a lot of the time you're given a concept, you're given an idea. If this room was been like someone was told to say, okay, we're going to make this into a spaceship, for example, your brain literally sparks so many different concepts and ideas of what that could possibly be. But I don't know about you, I haven't been to space before, so we're not necessarily going to know exactly what that feels like. And of course, we've got the budget that, could be another factor. So there's all these conversations that are happening along the way. So with spatial storytelling, how I use it is, okay, let's think about what it felt like for someone to land on the moon. And if that person was to land on the moon, what would they feel? So now the storytelling goes into, okay, let's just focus on spotlighting that moment. So maybe we're going to incorporate sound in a specific way. We're going to have a spotlight rather than, we can't build the full environment, but we can have a spotlight that kind of creates that, boundary for someone to feel as though they were landing in that moment. We could have haze, we could have low-level fog. Like, there could be little elements to then enhance that experience. So if the brief is telling you one thing, think about how can that now become an experience through the storytelling of it. And then it creates somewhat of a boundary for everyone who's involved, because it means the creative is not stuck on, okay, we need to, because if I had unlimited budget, this whole room will be the spaceship. But we don't have that, and it means for other people from other parts of the team, you're kind of ignited about the storytelling piece that you're trying to create. So I think in a way, it's kind of setting a parameter so ideas don't fly everywhere. You kind of come back to that anchor. So I hope that kind of answers your question in some way.
That's lovely, Trini. That was around, you're such an empathetic creative, that is around your feelings, and it's staying true to what you intended the outcome to be. One more question.
It's a very simple question. I'll just close the loop. You started with the worst idea. I'm just curious, what is one best idea that you've given that changed the customer journey, just the best idea you've ever given as part of your creative thinking?
PJ?
It may not have been necessarily a creative, what we'd think of as a creative piece of work. It might have been a creative solution. So, and everything we do could be an amazing piece of production that changed the way, recently, one of the best ideas, we've all just come back from Cannes, and we have an incredible challenge to track everyone that comes on and off our spaces. And how do we then measure that? It's the eternal problem in our industry, right? The creative solution that we landed on this year was using ultra-high frequency wristbands, which meant that we get a live count of people going back and forward. And so that's probably the most immediate in my mind. It's not necessarily a visual creative solution, but in terms of it totally changed the way that we were able to run our operations, which affected everything in terms of the experience, which is effectively what we were creating. I don't know if that answers your question properly, but anyway.
A super smart way to gain metric on something that's really difficult to measure. Yeah. That is creative. So I just really want to say thank you so much for having us. Thank you, PJ, thank you, Trini, and thank you, Kate, because these creative powerhouses spending their time with us, it's so amazing to hear your big thoughts and who you are as individuals.
Elevate operates thanks to the generosity of our global headline partners, Amplify, Seed and Wonder. Our global partners are Cvent, Identity, First, Illusion, Inconf, Powwow, PSP and the production department. Our partners are the Assemble Group, Castle Bell, Curious Nation and Jimmy Garcia Catering. Our venue partner is White Rabbit Studios, our training partner is Special Source Training, and our people and culture partners are Zoe Tufts from Times 10 Coaching and Nick Neal. Together we're changing lives, careers and the events industry for the better. Our sound engineer is
me, Matteo Magariello.
And our producer is me, Peter Kerwood. This podcast was recorded at White Rabbit Studios in Shoreditch.